Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening and welcome to Penguin Live TV. My name's Megan and I'm going to be your host tonight as we watch the world's smallest species of penguin, our little penguins coming out of the water, crossing the beach and heading back to their burrows here on Phillip Island in Victoria, Australia. And tonight I am joined by Vivian. Vivian, do you want to come on in and tell us what you'll be doing tonight?
Hello everybody. Tonight I am going to be looking at your questions, mainly on Facebook but YouTube as well. So if you have any burning questions tonight, please let us know. And I'm also going to be taking your guesses for how many penguins came home last night. So let us know what you think.
Beautiful. Thank you, Viv. So send through all your questions and comments to Vivian on Facebook and YouTube. We'll try and get back to as many good questions as we can live on air. If we don't answer your question tonight, keep tuning in tomorrow night and the next night, and we'll hopefully get to your question. And if you did watch last night and you think you know how many penguins might have come home last night, send through your guesses and we'll let you know in a little bit how many there were. And also if you have any questions for me, send them through. But if you have any questions for Vivian, any really hard ones, we might throw to her for a few questions as well. So send through any questions you might have for Viv tonight as well. Now we are looking out over Summerland Beach here along the southern coast of Phillip Island, also known as Millau. So these lands we're looking out over are the traditional lands of the Bunurong. So they were the first people here on Phillip Island or Millau. They've been coming here for thousands of years before European settlement, caring for this beautiful country that we're lucky enough to work on. I'm lucky enough to live on Bunurong country as well. And I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the Bunurong and their elders past, present and emerging as the traditional custodians of the land that we are joining you from and that we are watching the little penguins on tonight. And do let us know in the comments if you are on any other traditional lands here in Australia or anywhere else around the world. Please let us know in the comments. Let us know where you are and if you can acknowledge the traditional custodians of your lands as well. Now, I can already see some penguins, and you might be looking at the beach thinking, I don't see any penguins, where are they? But they are just out offshore here. So just before the penguins come up onto land, for the last few hours before sunset, they've been out here forming groups that we call rafts. So if you have this on a nice big screen, you might be able to see that big black line across the water. I'll try and zoom in a little bit. Oh, the camera focus for me. Let's see. So that big line there, it is a massive one, is a raft of penguins. There are a couple of small ones around as well. So what we're seeing is a big group of penguins floating on the surface of the water, looking up at the horizon where our camera is. So you can see their little heads bobbing out of the water, going up and down on the surface there. And you can see them beelining it in towards the beach, because it looks like they've probably decided that it's almost time for them to come back home. And they are waiting for it to get dark, because little penguins, the species we have here on Millau, are the smallest of all 18 species of penguin. So they are only about 33 centimeters or 1 foot tall. They only weigh about 1 kilo. So they are quite vulnerable to big birds of prey. So things like sea eagles, Pacific gulls, swamp harriers, anything that might want to make a penguin into a snack. They'll be out and about during the day. But once it gets dark, that's when it is safer for the penguins to come up onto land and make their way back to their burrows. But there might still be some of those birds hanging around, hoping to get a meal just before it gets dark. So they are coming in these groups for safety in numbers as they are crossing the beach. So when they get up to the edge of the water here, we do have quite a low tide tonight. So don't be surprised if they might go in and out a few times. Wait around a little bit, have a bit of a look around before they do cross the beach. And we do have Stephen and Jordan, who many of our regular water watchers will know quite well, who are counting the penguins tonight. So wish them luck. And have we got a lot of guesses in, Viv, on how many there were last night?
Yes, I have had a lot of guesses in. Last night's total of penguin was 873 penguins. I think Aaron was closest with 895.
Wow.
But I do also have a special message from your puppy.
Oh.
I think Dean has beaten you to it tonight with a happy anniversary, which has confused some of our watchers thinking it's your birthday. So you've got lots of love in our comments tonight, Megan.
Thank you, Vivian. Yeah, you may have noticed a dog causing trouble in the comments. That is my partner, Dean, and I was going to give him a shout out later, but he's beat me to it. Yeah, he's my goose, he's my partner. He's waiting for me at home, and it's our anniversary. So happy anniversary, Dean. Don't be too annoying in the comments.
I will mute you. Don't think I won't.
Thanks, Viv. And well done, Aaron, for getting close to the penguin numbers for last night. And it looks like we have some good, nice big rafts getting ready to come in there. So we do have 5 pathways all along the beach here. So I might zoom out as we watch these rafts come. Oh, that's a little bit more than I meant to. Come in nice and close. But I might just go back over here to the left so you can see where our main penguin pathways are. And there is a goose hanging out down there. So up in this little white box here near our main viewing stands is where we have our skybox. So that's where Jordan and Stephen are right now, getting ready for the first group of penguins to come up to start counting them. And there are multiple pathways all along this beach. So there is a path to the far left of both of these stands, and that is pretty much the end of our penguin colony here on the Summerland Peninsula. Then there is a pathway up between our 2 main stands there, where we do have some very special research penguins who may or may not have a microchip, so we know who they are. And then there are 2 more pathways between the stands and where our camera is. And we will be focusing on this pathway right here in front of us, which is where we get about 60% of our penguins, down here near our Penguins Plus viewing stand. So this big raft, if you can still see that big black line, I'm hoping that's coming right for us here on Penguins Plus. And we have been counting the penguins since 1968, so that's why we do just have rangers with binoculars counting them as they cross the beach. We don't use a more high-tech method because we want to be able to compare those numbers over all of those years. And I think we might have our first group of penguins. I was watching that big group and this little group has snuck up out of the water. Let me zoom in. There they are. And I did mention where the end of our penguin colony is here, down to the left of the camera. But the rest of our penguin colony does extend about 3 kilometres up to the right of where we are, all the way up to a place called the Nobbies along the Summerland Peninsula. So the penguins we see here at the Penguin Parade, it is only about 10% of the penguin colony. So we have about 32,000 little penguins in our colony here on the Summerland Peninsula. So we're only seeing a small proportion, but we are able to look after all of those other penguins by having people coming and watching our penguins here at the Penguin Parade. And I'm going to just move the camera up a bit so we can see that big raft on its way. But when I say we, I am talking about Phillip Island Nature Park. So Phillip Island Nature Parks is a government organisation that is funded by tourism to help manage our Penguin Parade and many of our beautiful wild places here on Phillip Island, including the Nobby Centre that I mentioned, Seal Rocks, where we have a colony of about 20,000 Australian fur seals, the entire southern coastline I was scrolling along earlier. We have our koala reserve, our woodland areas, we have beautiful beaches, mangroves, Ramsar listed wetlands, Churchill Island Heritage Farm, many beautiful places that hopefully you can come visit sooner rather than later. We are closed at the moment here in Victoria, but we are hoping to see people back here as soon as possible. So when you can come and visit, if you do buy a ticket to any of those places, that money does go right back in towards conservation research and education to help protect not just our little penguins, but all of our wildlife and wild places here on Phillip Island. And if you do want to help us out in the meantime, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation. There is a link in the description to help contribute to the work that we do to protect our wildlife here on Phillip Island. You can adopt a penguin, adopt a goose, adopt a bandicoot, the many other beautiful animals that you can help contribute towards the care, research, and spreading education about these animals. And here's that nice big group of penguins now coming out of the water. And I think that little group is even making a beeline to come join these guys. Oh, and they're just about the same time they came in last night, they're arriving tonight. And you may have noticed if you've been watching over the last couple of weeks, I actually haven't been here for a little while. Last time I was here, I think the penguins were coming out at 6. And now they're coming out around 6:15 because of course the sunset is getting a little bit later. And the penguins, they don't have little watches to decide, oh yes, at this time we're going to come back. They're looking at the sun, and when it's dark, that's when they're going to be confident to come out of the water. And that's affected by the time of sunset, but a whole range of different things like how much cloud cover there is. So if it's really cloudy, it'll look a lot darker earlier. They're likely to come in a bit earlier. If there's a big bright moon right above the horizon, when they're getting ready to come in, they might be a bit more tentative. And tonight we have quite a low tide. So you might have seen some nights the penguins are coming straight out of the water, they're on the rocks and in the dunes, and they're safe. But tonight they have a long trek across this sand, which is the most dangerous part of their day. Going from the water up to the vegetation is when they're most vulnerable. So you can see right here that they're quite conspicuous, so they're quite easy to see if there were any predators hanging around. And what are these penguins out the top doing? They want to try and stick close to the group because that's where they're going to be safer. It's harder to pick out an individual penguin if you were a predator, but after sunset they are fairly safe. But if they do get a fright, they will run back in the water. So when Jordan and Stephen tonight are counting, oh, there we go, they're making a beeline for it. They're waiting till they get more than halfway across the beach, which I think they have definitely now. So that'll be an official start to our penguin count. Am I right, Viv?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's
beautiful. And what are they doing? Doing a bit of a sneaky through around the vegetation here to come up onto the rocks. And we may even be able to guess how many was in that first group, and if Jordan or Stephen have a moment, they may be able to tell us how many there were. So pop in your guesses, let us know how many you think were in this first big group, and we'll count the little group that joined up with them as well. Let us know what you think. No prizes for closest, but you can get bragging rights in your house for whoever gets closest. And while we're waiting for these guys to come up over the rock, so you'll see once they get up here, they feel a lot safer. So they're gonna, I was gonna say they're not gonna be in such a hurry, but they are actually in a bit of a hurry tonight. What are you guys doing? Oh, and the puddle's gone as well. And they're gonna take a bit of a shortcut underneath the Penguins Plus viewing platform. So there are penguins that will head up to the right here, up what we call our Penguin Highway. Sometimes they take a shortcut under the platform, and some of them actually live on the other side of the platform, so they do like to walk underneath here, completely unobstructed. We do have all of our this platform and all of our walkways raised up so the penguins can get to where they need to go. Do we have any questions? You look like you're ready with a question, Viv.
I've got questions, but I'll start with the total number of penguins in that group.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Jordan tells us there was 127 in that group.
It was a big group.
Gives us one of our regular Waddle Watchers, Sarah, the prize. I think she had 123, so very
close.
Yeah.
Well done, Sarah.
So you should join us and count our penguins for us.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've got questions. Let's start with a question from Phoebe. She's 4. She asked, do we name the penguins?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Phoebe. Now, you might have heard me say that there's about 32,000 penguins that live here. Now, I don't know about you, but if I tried to name 32,000 penguins, I think I'd run out of names, especially because, you know, you kind of want them to start with P, all those penguin names. Oh, and I'm just going to switch over to the highway. Oh my gosh, the cat is on the highway.
Oh.
If you were watching a few nights ago, you might have seen Stephen spotted this feral cat. So we're going to again notify our pest animal officer, Stu, who's going to try and hopefully catch this cat and remove it from our environment here on Phillip Island, because of course I was talking about how penguins are looking out for aerial predators because they are quite vulnerable on land. And they haven't evolved with any land-based predators like cats or foxes. So they are quite vulnerable if this cat decided that it wanted to try and eat a penguin, which we're hoping that it's not going to. I have spoken to one of our penguin researchers who has said there's no evidence that cats have ever eaten or taken penguins. Foxes weren't quite similar. Foxes were a huge issue for our penguins here on Phillip Island, with one fox killing up to 40 penguins each night. So foxes have since been eradicated from Phillip Island for the protection of our penguins and the rest of our wildlife. But even though cats... oh, what was that? I don't think that was a cat. I think that might have been a possum. I'm not quite sure where the cat is gone.
I missed it because I was talking to Stephen about the cat.
That's okay. We will get Stu on to finding that cat.
No, that was the cat.
It was?
It was.
It was. Okay. I thought I had a funny run. I'm glad it's gone then. Gone away from our Penguin Highway. I'll go back to the main camera. Yes, so feral cats are, of course, a huge issue for all of our Australian wildlife. So even if they're not killing penguins, we have lots of other bird life, particularly birds like short-tailed shearwaters are at high risk of predation from a cat. And even our little eastern bar bandicoots that we have introduced here to Phillip Island for their conservation. They were once extinct in the wild, and luckily from the efforts that have gone in from the EBB recovery team, they've been able to be downlisted to now critically endangered. So the cats do pose a threat to our eastern bar bandicoots. They were the main concern with releasing bandicoots here. Not just because of predation, but cats do also spread a disease called toxoplasmosis, which can be quite deadly to some of our native mammals. But our bandicoots are thriving even in the presence of feral cats, but feral cat control is something that we are continually working on here on Phillip Island. And I'm saying feral cats every time because I am talking about cats that have been born out in the wild. They've never had an owner. They've only ever had to fend for themselves, which means killing wildlife. They're very, very different to a pet cat that you might have at home. Will come up for scratches, who are lovely to have as pets, but a feral cat is completely different. They won't come up to a person. They'll be out there hunting for their meals, and they would not be friendly if you were to come across one. So feral cats are what we are trying to eradicate from Phillip Island for the protection of our wildlife. And if you do want to help protect wildlife and you do have a cat, you can help by just keeping the cat inside, particularly at night, or just keeping it confined to your property where it can't go out and hunt wildlife. Because even if it does have a meal at home, it can still kill our wildlife. It doesn't have the same impact that a feral cat will living its whole life out there, but you can help make a positive impact by keeping your pet cats contained or indoors. Oh, back to the highway again. There's some more little penguins wandering past, so that gave me a bit of a shock seeing that cat. I wasn't quite expecting that. I know we did see it a few nights ago, but I don't think last time it was quite so close to some penguins. So I'm glad to see that everyone got away from that safely, and we will certainly be onto finding it. And I was in the middle of answering a question, wasn't I, Vivian?
I believe you were.
Do penguins have names?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I will go back to answering that question now that we've addressed the cat in the room. So they don't really have names as such. If you see one that has kind of distinct features, because again, we could try and give them all names, but all these penguins look the same to me. So if I was to name all these penguins in this group now and I was to see them again tomorrow, I probably wouldn't recognize them to remember what their names were. We don't want to give them all little name badges. Something we used to do was give them little flipper bands, so that, I'm going to go back to the main camera, that could tell us who the penguins were, and that would have a series of letters and numbers on it, kind of like a name, and that was kind of like a name tag on their flipper that our researchers could read, and it would tell them what penguin it was. But we stopped using those in 2001, and now we use microchips to tell our penguins apart. We do have a few that we may recognise and we may give them names, but most of them look the same. We may not see the same penguin night after night. There might be weeks or months between them coming home, and there are a lot of them. So each penguin that lives in one of these special little burrows here, and I'll try and follow some of these penguins back to maybe a burrow, but we'll see some certain burrows here that have little numbers on them, and those are research burrows. So we have about 7 sites all around the peninsula where we have these research burrows that are either a little wooden box with a number on it, or a natural burrow, a hole in the ground with a wooden stake with a number on it. And those burrows get checked regularly by our researchers. So this little wooden one you can see down on the bottom right here is a research burrow, and we have to know who those penguins are. There's another one there as the penguins go up the hill. So the penguins that live in these burrows will get a microchip in the back of their neck, like one you might have in one of your pet cats or dogs, so that if they get lost, they can be scanned and they know where they live. It's like that with the penguins. So we could scan a penguin. If we're looking in that box to see who's home, scan it, and a number will come up on our scanner, and that will be like the penguin's name. So I feel like it's a very long answer to your question, but that is kind of the best way we can give them names, so that it is something meaningful to us and it can give us information about the penguins, and it can tell us, things about penguin breeding success, penguin divorce rates, how far they move from where they were born. All these really interesting things that we get to tell you here on the live stream are things that we've found out from our penguin research by doing things like putting little microchips in the back of a penguin's neck so that we know who they are. Oh, that's a long trek for some of those penguins, right up that big hill. Some of them will actually go up over the top of the hill where they have their homes. They have to cross a road, so we have closed off all of the roads after sunset to help protect our penguins making their way back home tonight. And some of them will have to walk up to 2 kilometers to get home, which is a very long way with such little legs. I don't know about you, but I would not do well if I was only a foot tall and I couldn't quite bend my knees and I had to waddle all the way home. That seems very difficult. So they can't all be so lucky. Like these little guys who look like they've got the prime real estate right down here near the beach. Ooh, and while we watch these guys try and find their home, Viv, do we have another question? Or are there any questions that you want to answer?
Oh, yeah, sure, why not?
Do you want to jump in?
Alrighty. This is a well-practiced move here, everyone.
Not really. That was so awkward.
All right, so we've had lots of questions from kids tonight, so I think we're going to focus on those ones. So we have had George ask us, if we see a skeleton out there, do we keep it for research? Oh, let's have a fiddle with this. So I know that we used to keep penguin bodies and stuff if we found them dead and intact, or we'd keep them for taxidermies that we used to show people when we could. But we don't do so much of that now. I think we've got a lot of penguins around. So that's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Around for education purposes. So for the most part, we keep them outside and let nature take its course. So there's lots of animals that will scavenge on a dead penguin. So we've got like the ravens and maggies and all the other birds of prey who would love to eat little bits of penguin. And if they're eating little bits of dead penguin, it means they're less likely to go for our live ones and try too hard. So we'd much prefer to leave them to their natural course. What was the other question, Phoebe?
Ooh, sorry, just on that,
Yes.
I thought it might be useful to add, if we find a deceased bandicoot, what we do with that, because we were talking about toxoplasmosis.
Ooh, yes. So deceased bandicoots are a bit different. Since they are so special and new to our island, we collect every dead bandicoot we find. So I know for myself, I went over a couple of months, I think I picked up 3 dead bandicoots, and I was starting to get worried that they were going to think I was killing them. And I was really nervous about how that was going to start to look. But basically we're keeping them so we can have a look and make sure that they're not being, oh, they bet me to it, cheeky penguins. Making sure that they haven't contracted toxoplasmosis. So most of the bodies for the bandicoots that we find have been hit by cars, unfortunately, which is something that we are really trying to watch and monitor. And we've got lots of signs out there to have people slow down. I think so far that we hadn't found as many as we expected with toxoplasmosis, the bandicoots, is that right?
Yeah, and the only ones we did find were roadkill ones. There weren't any healthy ones we found trapping, which was a good sign.
Yeah, that's great. Let's have a look at some penguin bums. There we go. Was there anything more on the fun topic of dead animals?
I think we're good to move on.
Okay. I just thought it was an interesting question. We had Phoebe had lots of questions going really back to basics of what do penguins eat? So our penguins love to eat fish. Lots of little fish, basically anything about this size. So anchovies and pilchards are their favourites, but they will eat things like squids or little jellyfish, baby fish, basically anything that they can, which is really important to when their breeding season is. So you may have heard us before chatting about an early start to the breeding season and wondering what they're doing right now. And that is because we believe, so this is early research and not quite official or proven yet, that as it gets warmer a bit earlier, we have been having an early start to the breeding season, which we believe is due to a higher ocean productivity. Which basically means that there's more fish closer to home, and more fish closer to home means, where are all my penguins? It's a bit harder as we get later, doesn't it?
Yeah. What do you say to them, Viv?
What do we say to them? We say, hurry up, guys, get on out here.
And how do we say that?
But yeah, basically, so when the food is a little bit warmer, that's a weird sentence. When the food is a bit closer to home, it means that they can go out for a quick day trip and then come home to feed their chicks really easily. So they're more likely to start breeding a bit earlier, which is really great for us, but is showing some differences possibly due to global warming. So we are monitoring that, but there is one thing you can do to help us out is that we've noticed in the years that have had the more poor breeding season has usually been because of a lack of fish in the water, which we believe has been caused by overfishing, usually for pet food. So we're going to talk more about pets here. And it's nothing against pets. I have 2 gorgeous cats who I love to bits. They just spend their time indoors and have a ridiculous amount of toys and things to climb on inside. But I also make sure that when I'm buying their pet food that I'm not buying any food with pilchards or anchovies in unless I can be sure that it's been fished responsibly. That's really important because they are the favourite food of penguins as well as our cats at home. That we do try to make sure that they're sourced as ethically as possible and not taking food away from our wildlife. All right, have we got anything else?
Oh, no, I think you've covered everything. I've just been having a break.
Oh, Megan's getting lazy. I think
No,
Obi
never.
might be a bad influence. All right, it's okay. I've got a list of questions. Don't you worry. Are there any bilbies around here? And I would love to have bilbies down here. I don't know much about bilbies, but as another commenter said, I believe they live more in the desert. At least the ones I know about do. We have the bandicoot, which are really often mistaken as bilbies. I haven't seen any bandicoots on the stream tonight, maybe a little bit later. But they're similar. They're both marsupials. They've got their little pouch that they keep their babies in their pocket on their front, same as kangaroos and wallabies and koalas. And they're also very little, so about this big. And both Megan and myself have the absolute privilege of volunteering with the bandicoots, where we get to give them their health checks every 3 to 6 months, make sure that the population is all good and healthy since they're so new to this area. I know I spoke about it a bit the other night, but I'm just too excited about what's happening next. Since the bandicoots have been so successful with the removal of the foxes, we are working on our next project, which is the bushstone curlew. And I don't know a lot about the bushstone curlews, I'll admit, but that is why I'm so excited, is I'm really excited to learn about another animal that we'll hopefully have here. And so we've had 2 of them brought to our koala centre, and they're going to live in captivity for a little bit with the hope to eventually release them into the wild. So I was reading up on them a bit earlier. I'm doing my homework for you guys. That they were last seen on the island in the 70s, so they're pretty recent history that they've disappeared from us. Are they coming towards the highway yet? So I'm really excited for the possibility of what other animals that we can bring back onto Phillip Island now that we have removed foxes. Obviously we've got more work to do with like cats and rabbits, but more things that we can bring back the better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Now we did, when we made this, we've got a 30-year conservation plan that we made to choose what animals we brought back, along with the bandicoots, which the curlews were the #1 choice. I don't know if anyone has any other ideas of what else might be on that list. I think that might be interesting. Do you think anyone can guess what else we've got on our list?
Yeah, send through some guesses. Should I give some clues?
Ooh, I would love some clues because I can remember 3 others, I think.
We have a reptile, an amphibian, and another mammal. A marsupial, to be specific.
Right, let's go to the highway. Quick, penguin bums. Sorry guys, you've got to bear with me. I'm very new to this camera work.
You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. That's reassuring. Have we...
Are we having a triceratops? No, I don't think so.
No, we like our animals to be in the wild here, not in cages. We do not want another Jurassic Park incident here. Thank you. Good try.
Well, we're running out of time.
We're running out of time.
Should we swap back, or do you have any more questions you want to answer?
We'll swap back. Yeah.
Lovely.
Ooh. Definitely not well rehearsed.
And thank you so much for answering some questions for us, Viv. Thank you. And it was a bit of a practice because Viv's going to be hosting the live Penguin TV hopefully tomorrow night. So send her all of your love and good vibes because it is a little bit stressful getting up here and talking to all of you, but you are also fantastic and give us such positivity, such great questions, such good comments. So yes, please keep it up and give Viv a bit of support for hopefully jumping into this position a little bit more often. And did we get any more guesses other than Triceratops for what other animals we might want to bring onto Phillip Island?
Yes, we did have some guesses, and I'm now teasing them, saying maybe I'll make them wait until tomorrow.
Oh, do you want to do that?
Yeah, or maybe we'll give them one. Maybe we'll give them one.
Okay, and if you do want to do a bit of research, you can check out the 5-year threatened species plan that Viv mentioned, or our 30-year plan. And do you have one in particular you wanted to mention?
I was going to go with, I think I've lost the badge for it, but the growling grass tree frog. I have got a thing for frogs and reptiles, so that's probably the one I'm most excited about as well. Alrighty.
Lovely. And this is, of course, a wish list, so it's not anything that we're guaranteed we will be bringing here onto Phillip Island. But the goal is to become an island ark for conservation because we are fox-free. We are the largest habited island that's actually managed to get rid of foxes. So it's things that we're hoping in the future, given the appropriate research into what might do well, what might fit into the ecosystem, and what then is viable for release, or what might be available as animals to be brought onto the island. So there's a lot of things that go into a potential release, but there is a little bit of a wish list on animals that maybe were once upon a time here, that this used to be an area where they naturally lived. I might mention one more that I really hope we do bring back.
Yes,
the long-nosed potteroo was here. I think similar to the bushstone curlew up until about the 70s. They still live out on French Island, just in Western Port Bay. They're right near us. So, and that's another one I really hope to see back here.
And that is the one they did guess.
They did guess that. Great work
did.
if you guessed the long-nosed potteroo. And the growling grass frog is certainly exciting. I did a bit of volunteering a couple years ago because there was we wanted to see if we actually still had any because no one was quite sure. So I actually went out and did some surveys. So we just pretty much sat out in some kind of wetland areas and listened to try and hear the distinct sound of a growling grass frog. Viv, do you know what sound they make?
Oh, I do, but not enough to give you an impression.
Damn. I was thinking I kind of know, but yeah.
Maybe I'll practice for tomorrow.
Yes. Homework for everyone. Go listen to what a growling grass frog sounds like. Yes. You can kind of guess because they have the name growling grass frog. You can kind of guess why they have that name. So that's another animal that, if it's not already here, hopefully we might be able to see back here one day. So that's something really exciting. And if you want to contribute to that work that we're doing to help save some of our threatened species and become an island ark for conservation, some of that exciting work, you can donate to the Penguin Foundation, or when you are able to come and see us in person, we would love to see you here. We do always say if you come here and you see any of us and you recognize us, give us a huck, which if you don't know already, kind of is a call out call. It kind of means hello in Penguin, is what we like to think anyway. So you can say a huck, hello, and we do hope to see everyone back here as soon as possible. And we will be doing this stream, I think, for the
At least until Friday.
At least until Friday. Hopefully, maybe longer, we'll have to see. But we hope to see you back tomorrow night. It'll be myself and Viv again tomorrow. And hope to see Viv here in the hosting seat. So get ready with all of your questions for Viv tomorrow and your guesses for how many penguins you think came in tonight. And was there anything you wanted to add?
No, that's it.
No, alrighty. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow night. Bye. And